Hello, this is Professor Mike Labasi for my CIS 2808 Digital Forensics course, and this is a look at Topic 11, which is Database Forensics. At the time of this recording, it is, of course, the CHFI content. Is Module 11, and it looks like it's Volume 3, Chapter 4. So, and it is usually week 11, but again, this is look at the 16-week syllabus. So again, this is just a quick summary. A lot of the textbook and the labs really go into detail on some of the tools you can use, of course, for database analysis. But um, and we're going to have some stuff here. Specific databases have different tools and uses. Still, you might to apply some forensic steps to this, depending upon the scenario. If it's an IRB situation and like a you know a so incident handling, sort of like a DevOps, more of a corporate account, you might not need to go through as much steps. But of course, don't forget what we want to do is, if it is under criminal investigation, of course, is create that forensics copy of the database. So of course, there's a server involved or servers involved, and those need to be identified. Once the database or databases are identified, you might need to make a snapshot of those or make a forensics copy of those. And those, of course, will be under different files. It's going to do a lot of dependencies here. And we have some also looking at downtime. It could be that you can't take the system down to create a snapshot, so you make an extraction from that database of certain evidence files. And there could be other databases or plain text files, CSV files, things like that. And again, I would suggest those are date time stamped, handled correctly, maybe put into read-only mode somehow. Uh, Hash them, like MD5 on one of the only files, whatever. And then you have the evidence of each file with a hash, date, time, and then you make a copy of those files. And those are the ones you dig into, especially database files. Any kind of DB files. Anytime you interact with those, there are changes. And log files are updated, things like that. So, and again, there's a lot of things to consider here if we're talking about the criminal side. So, and we'll see that here. There are different areas you might want to just could be as simple as just recovering deleted data, retracing operations performed by an attacker, um, getting information from the database about the attack. So the database itself, it could be, and we see this in several areas of computer forensics. Is what the computer is. Is it a target of the attack? Um, is it a tool in the attack, or is it sort of the victim of the attack? So um, most time it's going to be this is going to be the target. So, and it could be from corruption. People want to go in and cause some issues, or it could have been from some malware, cross-site scripting, and so, anyways, you might need to consider how you want to handle this. So before you start off, and if I was to Venn diagram this network, server, database, network forensics, server forensics, uh, database forensics, you could probably guess it. Uh, Log files, some sort of log files, trace log files, transaction log files, error log files. Um, this is going to be a pinnacle part of this. And so now there are other ways, of course, we'll look at how we can extract information from this. So again, we're just looking at some of the slides here. Um, Understand how data is stored. And so here's an example from data stored in SQL Server. Um, it could be that you might need someone more expertise if it's really down into the depths of the database, but there could be some processes you have documented to help you guide you through extracting information from this. So there's some really good stuff in this week's labs, or this topic's lab. So, but again, a database is evidence repositories. So um, understand the database itself, understand where's the information at, where are the log files at. Is it a plain cache? Is it a vault database? I'm not going to introduce cloud into this mix here. We actually have a topic on cloud coming up, which does throw some more changes into how you identify, approach, and collect evidence. But we'll keep that out of the equation for now. But again, understanding your log files. So again, Windows logs, event viewer. I can't say much more than that there. um, SQL files, understanding where the trace files are located at. So you can see these can be pulled from, again, maybe if it's a running server, you might need to get a snapshot of these from a DBA, and then those are held and sort of shown a certificate of, these will be pulled from the original server. If the server has been suspended or it's been taken offline, then you might be able to get those directly. But again, you might want to make a copy of these. Again, this is just File Explorer, so we're not doing anything crazy here. But understand what kind of logs. Look at error logs. Again, here's a SQL Server error log location. And I always mentioned before, you might want to look at the config files. So whatever whatever you're running, if it's if it's like MySQL, is it MS, SQL Server, maybe SQLite, which I don't think the textbook covers. MongoDB, yada 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 yada, and the list goes on. There's all kinds of databases. Going to the documentation for those servers, SQL Server documentation, MySQL, again, and maybe SQLite, looking at documentation here. Things like features, extension tools. We want to look at is looking at the configuration files. So if it's run on Linux, if it's run on Windows, we can't just assume this is going to be the default location. Program files, Microsoft SQL Server, in the C drive. There's a lot of things to consider. So having that config file might be very handy. It might show where the logs are held because there could be a logging server involved, which is hopefully the case. That might give you an actual nice snapshot of log files that were not modified. I think we mentioned that in a previous video too, so about logging servers. So understand where these paths are at. So you can always use the basic documentation, but it's always good to look at the configuration. So, and there's tools you might bring into play here. So SQL Server has, besides this, you might use SQL Server Studio, or we have, of course, this is a text pad for looking at error logs. Let's see, there's a profiler app. So there's a lot of stuff in the textbook that goes for different apps. Those are just a handful. But again, understanding the architecture. Now, again, understanding maybe how it works. There might be a case where if something's caught, it could be some caches or buffers involved here that might be able to be used to grab some specific transaction data. But really, it's going to be the log files, and of course the actual storage. So where they stored at. Same we look at MySQL, and where's the database stored at? MySQL 8.0, it's an _/data in this case. And understand how the database for MySQL works too. So DB stores contacts, undo logs, and which might help examiners rolling back transactions. A lot of databases have some sort of undo log. Oracle, things like that have ways to understand, ways to roll back transactions. That could help in recovery if there was some sort of corruption from an event. So let's leave this here. So besides look at the servers, we're just going to take a peek at real quickly the process that this chapter talks about. So DB browser for SQLite looks like this icon right here. That's a great tool. It runs on Windows, Mac, Linux. It's great to open these .db files. So in this case, this is accounts.db. This could come from a mobile app. This could come from something running on the system itself. And of course, the thing you look at is we understand the tables themselves. How can we look at the tables? And of course, we have the ID number. And so basically about databases is it's usually a key field to help identify. It can be used to carry over, or look for other information. So um, the ID number 2 here, or number 3, uh, there's a password here, it looks like. It looks like it's probably been hashed. So, and here's a filter type. It's like a VoIP password probably. So, or WhatsApp password here. But if we need to trace further down for more data, this ID number is what we're going to use. So again, this is usually referred to in database as a key field. So, and so the idea behind this is with data optimization, for example, you might have the account table, and there's an ID number, as well as like login name and other information. And then maybe we look at other places where for posts, and we'll see this here in a second. POSTS, yeah, posts. Um, Here we see the name, Mike, user type is a user, last login date, and things like that. And this is very handy information. Grab that row of the account number for our suspect. That ID number, well, you don't get everything over here in post. You just see ID number. You might have post ID and poster ID, or post, ID number used for the person who posted that post. Let's say this is a form post. So there we post ID. So there's key fields like that to help identify, tie back information in other tables. And this lab will sort of walk you through that in a little bit. And actually, I'll show you something here with the same aspect. But back to this, we can use this to look at the database structure. In this case, this is for accounts DB, and browse the data itself. And of course, we can also look at maybe contacts or um, maybe our contacts are of value here. Last time contacted, filter, there's ID number, raw name, contact ID number. So some of these numbers are tying back to other information. So photo files, you can see here. So databases are just built like this normally, unless you're dealing with something like a non-SQL database, like a MongoDB or something that just dumps everything into like a JSON file. But we won't talk about that here. So you can see this is ID, package ID, MIME type ID. A lot of lookups need to be done. If you need to tie through, in this case, here's the data one. Okay, there's some email addresses here. These could be important. So knowing the ID for this email address might be useful later in another table for maybe contact history. So this is a great thing. You can use this. We have tables also that support, in this case, here's WhatsApp. This is a WhatsApp database. There's tables that support the database and tables that actually support the data also. So this is a great tool. DB Browser Lite's fantastic. It's a great tool for doing this. Now to go further, again, we might just browse the tables with a simple tool like this, and you could write, you can execute your own SQL queries. If you to help you maybe go through and pull data from different tables into one output, and you can export that output, save it as a text file or CSV file. And I won't do that here, but we're going to do that here. So this is actually using the MySQL command prompt. And what we're doing is we're actually logging in as root with no password. It should be a password. You can see we're MySQL the server version. This is the kind of stuff you want to grab also. This is a system that's actually evidence. This version of information could be very handy. So what we do here is we're actually creating a database, an empty one called WordPress. So there's a scenario in this whole CHFI lab where you walk through an attack and gather information. But I thought this was pretty nice to identify here. And what we're doing is we're taking the WordPress evidence file. This is the actual SQL file, and we're going to dump that into this temp file for us to go and browse around in. So again, maybe this is a read-only file. That's been, we have the date, time, MD5, SHA on it, and we're going to dump that into our own little database to goof around with. So now we're going to go back in here, log back in, and we're going to use the database, WordPress. And now you write some basic, here's where you need to understand your database. And so reference documentation is going to be very handy, cheat sheets, things like that. And, or just Google, like how do I look at the tables? Well, in MySQL, it's show tables. So I can see, WordPress comments, links, options, posts. So that's probably important, and users. And so here's a simple select statement. So select asterisk from, or splat, sometimes you hear, from WordPress users. And so it's good to understand how SQL works. And there's a way here. This is SQL is understood by SQLite. Now this is important. This is looking at SQL or SQL cheat sheets. It's going to be handy to find one for that database, but there's generally a syntax used for a SQL statement. So I won't go over that here, but you can see it selects something from this table. So in this case, the WP users table. And we want to do is we want to find that ID. Again, we need some specific information here. So, and we get, so select asterisk from WP users, and we see here's a user called bad guy, which is great. It's never going to be that easy. But here we have the ID. This is what we want, the ID number. ID number is 125. So again, that is the first piece of evidence. Now we can go and say, now show the columns for posts, because someone went in and hacked this WordPress site, and we want to go ahead and make sure we get the post here. And we can see there's a post author. And so now this, of course, is going to be a multi-key. This is not the primary key. This is sort of this is a key from another. This is that key right there. So it's more of a foreign key. It's usually called. And this is what we want. We're going to get all posts by this post author. And so I do some stuff here. First off, I mistyped that. So yeah, a hint, you can use the up arrow in here a lot to go back and see if the previous things are typed. Then I had to go in, I had to bounce the database. This is actually in the lab. You got to go in and change it so you can actually export data. It's usually run in secure file privilege mode. Reconnects, but here we go. Select splat from WP posts, where the post author, so give me everything, all columns from this WP posts, where post author is equal to 125. And then now if I just run that and we usually end up with the semicolon, that will sort of terminate the SQL statement and it should run. This one says into out file, evidence.txt. Now we're creating some evidence, some trace evidence here out of that. So again, there's that post ID. Again, we have we have a database, a WordPress database. And maybe we have, again, this is one was attacked. A copy of that database is put into our own little database. That's what we did. We call it WordPress. Not very good. And in there, then we did our selection. So we did our investigation, and we funneled out and got for 125, and we sent that to a text file. So it's important to make sure you understand this process. It might need to go to a court of law. You might need to be able to testify how it worked. But now we have this evidence file, that text. This can be opened. It's a text editor. And we can see information about the post. And of course, you can view this in here too. But we might have information about the URL, date, times, things like that. Maybe where they came from. And this could build and build and build. So anyways, that's just a quick sample of working with this command prompt here to extract some text. Using the CHF lab, and you'll do this in the lab for this week. So this is a quick summary. Databases and related metadata, that could be the error logs. It says in a forensic precise manner to make the precise, yeah. So forensic precise manner, this is going to depend upon if it's going to go to court of law or not. That's a huge deal. If this is, again, an incident response, sort of for DevOps, SecOps, maybe not be as detailed out. I mean, more like, hey, find out how they got in, and can we fix the transactions that are broken. It's important to know this up front. When in doubt, if possible, make copies of the database. Now it's easily said than done. Some databases will be very large. Some might be running all the time. They won't stop. So there's a lot of stuff taken to play here, but understanding the underlying database too. Is it MySQL? Is it SQL Server? Is it SQLite? Is it one of the million? If it's something you're not sure about, um, hopefully they dedicate a individual, maybe from the client team who knows the database, a sysadmin who can help you with that. Then find out where the data is stored. So, so we would look into some tables, look at the database table structures, and do some browsing, and then extract evidence for the case. So, anyways, I'm just gonna wrap it up there. This gives us an idea um, about some aspects of database forensics. And again, I just want to leave you up with thanks for watching, and don't forget this could be a part of a larger thing, and there can be a lot of components at play. In fact, these next few topics we'll be looking at, um, cloud and email, definitely are ones that you got to deal with a lot of factors. The server logs, things like that. Can server be taken down? Is it a snapshot? Cloud, of course, has a whole other few other things you got to think about. So, anyways, we'll leave it off at this. Thank you for watching.